All right, Scott.
Well, I like AJ's bet because I'm on the Vikings over their number of 8.5 wins.
See, there's some artistry here.
And yes, I know that this is a team that got very lucky last year and shouldn't have been the 13-win team that they were, but they still won 13 games with the 31st ranked defense in the NFL,
which is random.
And what did they do to address that? They hired Brian Flores to be their defensive coordinator, whom AJ and I were talking about this before the show. There's not enough head coaches in the NFL right now that are better than Brian Flores at being a head coach. Like, he should be a head coach in the NFL.
I used to agree with that. This was one of our first arguments when AJ came on board. He was skeptical.
We've flipped stances on
Here's
Flores.
the thing. All the things that's come out of Miami, and maybe it doesn't matter as a DC, but all the things that came out of Miami was he was difficult to deal with in a way that wasn't okay. Like almost in a Josh McDaniel sort of way.
But it's...
What? Did he just crack his head against the glass? Yes. He's been in this office for 4 years.
The glass must really be clean.
I mean,
holy shit! Look, you can see the mark where his head hit.
Go take a picture of that. What the?
Oh, fuck.
He's that tired? Guy, if you ever what was he up at 4:30 in the morning? Take a picture, dude. We're gonna we'll tweet this out.
So as I was saying, Brian Flores, very smart football guy, good defensive. You know from the Steelers his impact that he had last year on that Steelers defense. I think he will have a positive impact on the Minnesota Vikings defense. And I'm not a believer in that division being all that competitive. Yeah, Detroit certainly is getting so much love. Green Bay's going to take a step backwards without Aaron Rodgers. And I like AJ, I like Chicago to go under 7.5. I think Vikings over 8.5 wins. Smart play.
All right. You know something? I'm not sure I disagree because the typical default is the idea. I can't wait. When he gets back, we got to interview him.
It's hard to get a good photo of the smudge because in the photo you can't the light doesn't work.
But what you can see is where his pompadour ends.
Yes.
And then his forehead is I bet the distance between the top of his hair and that bottom line, his forehead, is exactly right.
It's crazy.
I
don't know how.
Do you have my calipers?
I mean, did he think it was open or what?
I don't know. Did he
That's how you
forget
measure
that the
things.
door was there?
I mean, he was. Here he comes. I think he's a little wobbly.
There's real questions.
Here he comes.
He's concussed. It was all that math we did earlier.
How many fingers do I have up? Dude, what the hell? You know, Fez might have had a stroke and he isn't telling us. He's walking funny, too.
You know when birds fly into a window?
That's what I was saying. The door must have been really clean.
But Fez, you've been going through that door for 4 years. It's never open. We never keep it ajar because it's too heavy. It's a glass door.
He didn't even hit the door.
I hit the sidewall.
He hit the part that's not.
Was that the Pythagorean theorem going at an angle?
It's the part that can't even open. It's the glass next to the glass door.
Who's going to trust your picks at this point for tonight? You got anything to crack on it, Mackenzie?
No.
Have you ever done that?
I've done plenty of things like that.
That's true.
I never got it. Unfortunate thing happened. Like the hysterical nature of it. It's not me.
It's the greatest joy of my life when someone.
I'm different like that.
Watching people get hurt is one of the funniest things. Not injured,
called America's Funniest Home
or Jackass. Think about the money they. As long as you're not
it.
seriously injured,
We got that part.
It's okay. Just the pain and shame part. That's good. That's good comedy.
I got to be honest with you. There's a guy that's worked with me in pregame named Mark for a long time. I mean, what's it been? 25 years? Not with pregame, but one way or another, he was working with me. He was on the same floor as me in college, my freshman year at Ohio State. Park Hall, 8th floor. Okay. He's a heavy set fellow. And at various points, he's been extra heavy. He wasn't when I met him, he was maybe 280 or something, right? 6 foot. He probably got up to 400 at different points. Now, he's lost weight since, which is great. But when he was at his height, we were having a meeting at the old office. This has been maybe 7, 8 years ago. And he's sitting in a normal chair. Like one that leans back, like a executive chair. No lie, the chair just explodes underneath him at one point, and he goes, boom, right? It drops like, what, 2 feet, I guess? It's the hardest I ever laughed. I was in on the meeting. Before he hit the ground, I was laughing.
Now,
Just like Shallow Hal.
now
What's
had he
this
like
chair made of?
had he broken his back or something, it wouldn't have been as funny.
Exactly.
But if there's no serious
But
injury,
if he did, once the E-car laughed, I would be laughing still.
probably.
But somehow Mackenzie, who is one of the most self-involved people I've ever met, he's a good-hearted person, but he's Mackenzie first. Like he's in the top, could be millennials, whatever. Somehow he's the one that doesn't laugh at other people. You know why? Because he gets more out of being sanctimonious about it than he would laughing at it. Would you agree with that, Mackenzie?
100%.
Now that's what makes him tolerable. He admits his limitations. I like that, actually. I'd rather you be sanctimonious and virtue signaling and admit it than being neither and not.
I'll take it.
But you wouldn't admit it if you weren't it, but you know what
Never.
I'm saying. So, Fez, what caused that? Just fatigue? What time did you get up today?
Possibly, like 6 a.m. I always get up 6 a.m.
All right. Always at 6. You set the alarm?
Just naturally wake. I take my son to school, so that's when he wakes up, and I'm doing a lot of times I like to do my work early to get at the numbers before the lines move.
He wakes up at 6. When's he got to be at school?
We leave not till like 7:45.
So he preps an hour 45 to get dressed?
He's slow. He hits the
Oh,
Zoom.
okay,
He hits
okay.
the snooze, and he feel
That's
like
fine.
about 6:22 he actually
But
gets
it's
up.
summer now, right? He's not.
But
at
now
school.
he's out. But his
Get on
but
a
his
routine.
alarm still goes off. Imagine that. So
Now that's disciplined.
yeah, but then he goes back to sleep.
He wants the joy of hitting the snooze, apparently. Wow. Now that brings up another guy who used to work for, or still works for us, Tom Pat. He does a lot in sales, and you guys have dealt. He's great in that job. He accommodates like crazy. But he literally, if he would get executed, if he wasn't somewhere at 11, it was 50-50 if he was making it. when he was like in college in that year, I mean, it was crazy. He would sleep through planes. He'd sleep through. But he loved that snooze. He'd hit that snooze 7-8 times.
That's me.
There's times where we have the Monday morning meeting, and
Oh, he struggles getting there.
well, it's not that it's
He's logy.
no, it's just he's always right up to the line, like when you think. But I guess they're on Central Time, so it's like
Well, Eastern time.
yeah, or okay, so it's like middle of the day for them, so it can't be something to sleep. But it's always Mark and I are on first, and then the rest of the. Actually, Mackenzie's he's on the call now, and he's early.
This is fascinating.
But the rest of the call, it's like on the time, like right when you think
'cause
they
they
might
know-
be late. No, they're there.
Because they know if they disappoint Mary, what happens?
Oh, Mary's a culprit.
A culprit, but because she doesn't want to be early either.
No, she doesn't want to be
She
early.
doesn't like small talk.
She doesn't want to be late. She is on time.
She doesn't want small talk.
No.
She will sit and look at the atomic clock and call 20 seconds before rather than get on and have to talk to you about something.
Often it's Mark and I,
He loves small talk.
and it's like, hey, Mark. Hey.
Well, you haven't broken through on the small talk.
No.
So next week, ask him about falling through the chair.
That's exactly. Oh no, you don't think so?
Okay, if you want.
You know, the
Just
different-
say I made a good nature.
You know what is interesting? The different mediums of communication, because Tom is an email guy, so all he does is email me when he has questions, and I always text, him back my answers. So it's like whereas Bernie Fratto, all he wants to do is talk. So
No, that's not all he wants to do. It's if he's going to communicate with you, you'd rather talk.
Exactly. So all he does every single time is call me, and I never call him, but I text him all the time. So it's
So what percentage of the time do you answer his calls?
1/4.
But it's not that you're choosing not to. You're just.
I don't even look when my phone rings.
You're occupied in a way that you just couldn't be overcome.
When the phone rings, it's like, is it RJ or is it my buddy Pastrami? If not, I just let it go into.
But I never call you.
but
cold because I don't call people cold. I text and say you got a minute by phone.
this is really strong because RJ will say, Steve, you got a few minutes. You available in like 15 minutes? I mean, it's like it's good. I'm not a senator.
That's the way to do it.
And I do the same thing like with and
I don't cold call people.
And I consider that to be deferential also. Like I like that a lot. Like somebody's like, and I got to tell you, you're going to get mad at me, but if sometimes on pregame people say, they've selected you they want you to be your friend, and they don't give me any information, and I don't say yes.
A friend where?
At pregame, they want me to be their friend, which I welcome, but they got to say, "Hey, Fez, this is Gary in Michigan." Well, some context.
Right, then that's what you know. Then is if you want to be Fez's friend. That's a tough one. Fez's friend. Tell him something.
Yes,
and really tell him how you're going to make him money. That's what's going to cut through. Scott's just nodding like, yeah, that's what I found out.
Yep.
All right, so we got who left? Scott did his. Now you didn't get a chance to respond to it. He likes. Oh, so Fez, this to me feels analogous to Green Bay. First year they won 13 games.
That's exactly what I thought. So like I was telling RJ, Green Bay was so massively lucky they won 13 games back to back. I like them
like
under
9.5.
And it was 9. And they even got bet down to 8.5. And RJ said, this is a square ball biggest thing ever, Fez. So you're directionally right. That Green Bay was lucky, like Minnesota was lucky. They won 13 games. Guess what? They don't need to win 13 games. They don't need to win 11 games. If they win 9 games, they're going over. And and Green Bay, I think, won 11 that year.
Yeah. Minnesota just has to be slightly above average.
Yeah. And they've got Justin Jefferson, who's God.
And they drafted Jordan Addison, who's one of the best wide receivers in the draft.
They are making some cuts based upon the salary cap.
They got rid of Adam Thielen. He stinks.
And could be getting rid of Dalvin Cook.
Which is a big
Or he
deal.
will stink going forward.
I mean, and Cook is someone that they still say has a year or so or two left as an elite receiver.
Or running back when he's on the field.
I agree with you.
Well, he's not hurt that much.
I agree. Call him a receiver.
I don't really believe with most people with propensity to be injured or injury prone, as they say. I believe that in the extreme cases that's valid, like Jimmy G. I just don't think it is. I think it's a lot of luck. Like Jordan got hurt his second year, was out almost a whole year, right, with his foot injury. I don't think Jordan had another injury that really mattered the rest of his career.
The irony is that the guy that went in front of him in the draft was but he was crippled from the get-go.
Not crippled.
The thing with Cook,
I mean, literally is crippled.
The thing with Cook, though, is that he doesn't score touchdowns. So if you're looking for like offensive production, like I think they can replace the offensive production that they lose.
They wouldn't have paid him that much when they had more salary cap.
Well, they don't want to pay him now, so that's why
they don't have the money. Listen, to me, it's not debatable that Minnesota's making some cuts.
Of course,
they prefer not to. Is it enough? I don't know. To make your bet not good. I don't think so. Now, if you look at Minnesota, we look at fourth quarter win share, which in my opinion is the best capturing of the truth of the fourth quarter in these games. Minnesota was 3.5 games lucky. That's massive. But they still should have won 9.5 games.
Yeah.
So think about this. Let's assume Minnesota won 8 games last year. Then you could come out and say, they were unlucky. They should have won 9.5. I'm going over.
I agree with that. So, I mean, in general, what the truth is of last year has to be your starting point of that. Now, then doing the differential analysis of, how much less money are they spending? Or we're looking a lot at cap spend and stuff. And Mackenzie, I know we're not ready to release all the info, but in 30 or 40 seconds, give us what you've learned so far about the correlation between cap spending and wins.
Strongly correlated. If you have a lot of dead cap for whatever reason, or if you choose not to spend a lot of money, if you have cap space at the end of the year, you're going to be a losing team more often than not.
And it makes a ton of sense. In a hard cap league in which you can account for things, what are the ways teams struggle? They spend a lot of money. Like the Bills will have, which makes me surprised with them having a quarterback that's going to be healthy for, in theory, going to be good for 10 more years, right? Why would you be setting things up now to go all in, it feels like? Because obviously the Von Miller.
Yeah.
Leonard Floyd they just signed too.
Yeah, that's what made me think. How do they still have more money? They're pushing things forward, but then you're still going to have an elite quarterback in theory. I don't know. It's confusing. But I guess if you're Buffalo, you want to win one no matter what.
Yeah. I think.
But if you don't, what happens?
It's a disaster.
So
it looks like it's trending towards disaster.
I think I'm more optimistic than I was a couple weeks ago. I just think that they're spending money. They're going. A team that's a year after the year they were supposed to be good and disappointed is usually a good bet.
Post-hype sleeper.
Well, we're seeing that in other sports. right?
That's a good phrase. I like that. Go
We're
ahead.
seeing that in other sports.
Like, give an example.
The Miami Heat were the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference last year. They did not make it to the NBA Finals. Now they're in the NBA Finals. The Florida Panthers were the number 1 record in the NHL last year. Did not make it through in the postseason. Now they're in the Stanley Cup Final. The year after the year. Seems to be the year.
The Virginia Cavaliers were like the number 1 seed, and they lost outright. And then they
And betting
won it
wise,
all.
I agree with this because they're usually underpriced because of that. Because everyone lost so much money on them when they were the hot team.